Now, my biggest concern is not Brock Purdy. My biggest concern is not Debo, even though it should be probably. I mean, he'll probably go off. My biggest concern is not Ayuk or Kittle. My biggest concern is not on the defense. It is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, no matter when he plays the Rams, who he's been on playing the Rams, has always gone off against the Rams. I just don't think until they stop Christian McCaffrey, I'm not going to believe that they can stop Christian McCaffrey. And what I will say is a lot of Rams fans don't want to admit this, right? Because it's a 30-13 win. They want respect. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, we dominated them. And that's true. You can say that. However, there are two things that are important to point out there. One, both tackles went down with an injury. So you can't just not mention that. You could say it doesn't affect the game's win or loss. You know, it's still going to be a win in the Rams' book because they were dominating them. Byron Young, the rookie, was eating Charles Cross's lunch, which I'm very excited about him for. But number two, this is a big one, because they took over the game and they put Seattle in a bind because Seattle was winning at halftime. People don't realize that. So they put Seattle in a bind, getting, you know, that lead and making them have to throw the ball, which they couldn't. Kenny Walker had 5.2 yards per carry when they stopped running, and like 10, 11 carries. Like, he wasn't stopped. They just stopped him. Like, the Seahawks stopped him. And it's like you could almost justify, even though you were down in the game, it would have been better to run the football, because the Rams on those outside zone runs, which of course Christian McCaffrey can be a problem with, they, like, you have Byron Young who's a work in progress. He's a rookie. I'm not going to go too hard on him. I want to see him set the edge a little bit better. Michael Hoyt's 310 pounds, my guy. Okay, he does what he can. I mean, he covered DK Metcalf last week and had a pass breakup, but I've said it all off season. I think this team can be competitive. They're going to have to probably trade for an edge defender at the deadline, because they do not have a guy, and I say defender, not rusher, for a reason. They don't have a guy that can rush the passer consistently, unless Byron Young ends up being that guy. He looked good last week. We'll see. Let's say consistently next to Byron Young, and they don't have a guy that can consistently set that edge. And that is a big issue here, because run defense is just as important as rushing the passer as an edge defender. And the Rams simply don't have that. So when I'm watching Kenny Walker just bouncing off guys and getting to that, you know, getting off to the, I can't even talk, the boundary there and running up the field, and he's got that speed. He's got, you know, a good build for the running back spot. And then I see Christian McCaffrey, who's got the perfect build now for the running back spot. I'm like, I could see this being a problem. And so the script for the game, because we've been overusing that and everything. But the script for the game, I would say, is it's going to come down to, I think the Rams have the lead, 24-21 late in the game. And I think the 49ers just go down the field at the end of the game, tired defense, because, you know, this 49ers team plays physical. And tired defense just keeps running Christian McCaffrey down their throat, and they score a game-winning touchdown, and they win 28-24. That's how I see it. I think, which is, I'll sign up for that, because I'll sign up for that over a 2-possession loss or whatever. Like, yes, it's heartbreaking, but it shows you they're there. And I think that's the thing. This defense allowed 12 yards and a first down in the second half last week. This same defense that everyone at PFF was saying, I don't even know who, like, Michael Hoyt is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that same defense. And so I think what we're going to see is, once again, this defense and Raheem Morris, a renewed energy, playing a little bit more physical, not playing as off as much, because they played a lot of bend don't break last year because of how bad the offense was. Now they can take a little bit more, you know, opportunities and chances. So I think because of that, you'll see some good things, but you'll also see, like, Darion Kendrick had some moments last week where you're like, wow, this guy really developed. And then he had that one play with DK, who he was just gone. He wasn't even on. He was in your living room. He was no longer on the TV. And so, you know, I think that's something that we could see. I mean, especially, I think Ayuk is the best route runner if you combine the Seahawks receivers and the 49ers. He's the best route runner of all of those guys. So I think if what we should expect is Darion Kendrick is on Ayuk. I think we're going to get a couple of those where you're like, oh, there's no one near him. And it's not like last night where, they had the broken coverage with KJ Osborne in the back of the end zone. No. Like Ayuk is going to earn that, right? So that's how I see it. I just think that this defense, who people said was going to be the worst in the league, is not going to be worse in the league, Eric. But it's going to have its peaks, its valleys. It's going to have its growing pains. And people need to understand that. And I think, last week is great. They got to build off that. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a win this week.